So Metro Exodus is officially the first PC game with full support for the Sony PS5 DualSense 5, full functionality meaning the built-in microphone, haptic feedback motors, as well as the adaptive triggers. This is huge, that's what she said. What exactly does this mean for the future of PC gaming as well as PS5 gaming? Let's get it. Alrighty guys, share my screen over here. I have an article. This will be cited or sourced down there in the description below, as I do anytime I cover any news in the gaming community or industry. Developed 4A added the DualSense 5 support via an update released on Friday, as demonstrated in the video below, which we'll go ahead and watch that right meow. And as you can see, when this dude lays on the trigger, there's a lot of resistance around the halfway mark, and then of course his fingers jiggling around because he's getting that sensation of firing a gun or a firearm, which is pretty sweet. Currently, it only appears that the feature will work in wired mode. Not a big deal, considering most PC players do prefer to plug in controllers into the front of their towers. Vice playing with it wirelessly, especially because the PS4 DualShock as well as the PS5 DualSense use Bluetooth as their wireless means for connectivity versus something like a 2.4 gigahertz dongle, which does introduce a little bit of input delay. It's nothing crazy, especially when you're playing on the console, but when you integrate that over to a PC, it does introduce noticeable lag or delay. Nothing too crazy, but it's there. I did make a video about a week ago that will be linked in the description below, showing you guys how to overclock your controller, which I thought was kind of a joke. I thought people were trolling me, but it is indeed a thing. And basically you update the drivers that are run on Windows 10 in order to cut your input delay down from around 10 milliseconds down to 1 milliseconds, which is virtually real time. It is for wired mode, however, but if you are using something like a 2.4 gigahertz dongle, like my Razer Viper Ultimate uses over here, the connectivity is lightning fast. So the actual PlayStation 5 version of Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition isn't due to release until June 18th, so the PC update is the first time players have been able to experience the game with the haptics and adaptive triggers. PlayStation has recently stated its commitment to increasing its output on PC, meaning games previously only playable on the PlayStation platform. For example, Horizon Zero Dawn and Days Gone, which are two great exclusive games for the PlayStation, PS4 and PS5 that are now ported over to PC, which I want to touch on in just a minute here. Kind of a big deal. Sony said it would be exploring bringing more PlayStation exclusives to the PC. Then earlier this year, they confirmed PlayStation will bring quote-unquote a whole slate of games to the PC, starting with Days Gone. So what does all this mean on a higher level? Yes, it means obviously if you have a PC and you buy Metro Exodus that you can play it with the adaptive triggers and the haptic feedback motor. However, looking at it on a bigger scale of the gaming community and industry, this is pretty huge for a couple of reasons. For one, this takes one of the coolest features of the PlayStation 5, which is the functionality of the DualSense 5 controller. They sound kind of gimmicky when you read about it or you see it on video reviews and YouTube videos, and then you get it in your hands and you actually try it and you're like, whoa, wow, okay. But here's why this is a bit of a big deal. If this is being patched in with this game here, it is only a matter of time before the PC modding community gets their hands on these scripts by data mining the PlayStation 5 game files, or the ISOs, the images of the PlayStation games, and then are able to modify or manipulate those scripts and get them to run on games that don't support the DualSense 5 on the PlayStation. This could make it to where when these games do get ported over to PC, there is already a patch hot and ready to go, hot piping ready to be piped into your game files to where you have support for that, which is really cool. And since there is a slew, as we read here a second ago, of PlayStation games exclusives that are going to be being ported over to PC, this gives PC gamers a chance to play these games with a really cool set of features from the DualSense 5 controller. Now, will this make the PlayStation 5 obsolete? Because I'm sure some people are going to ask that, or even just make the statement down there in my comment section. Well, there's no need to have a PS5 now. Like, what does it do that a PC can't? Well, the PlayStation 5 is not utterly useless because this function exists. The sheer value factor of the fact that you cannot build a PC for $500 that will perform like the Series X or the PlayStation 5, or build a PC that will run like the $300 Series S for $300. Now, obviously the performance ceiling is much higher, so if you have no budget and you can get yourself a 3090 and an overclocked water-cooled i9 and 64 gigs of RAM and all this good stuff, then you can run circles around the new generation consoles while using the functionality like adaptive triggers and haptic feedback motors. What this was here is of the DualSense 5 controller. But there's still the sheer value factor of the PlayStation, not to mention not all exclusive games are automatically going to get ported over to the PC. It's going to be a painstaking, long process, drawn out. We only have a handful of titles right now that have been ported over, so it is going to take time, not to mention Sony is not going to sign over all of their IPs to be playable on PC. They're going to keep a couple of those for themselves. Obviously, it's Sony. They're kind of like Apple. They don't like to play that well with others when it comes to cross compatibility. Shoot, they don't even like cross play on certain titles. So I really don't think Sony's just gonna buck up and port every single exclusive. You know, the Uncharted series, God of War, Gran Turismo, just start spitting out all their exclusives onto PC. But a good chunk of them will be coming to PC. And if you own only a PC and you do not want to spend $500 for the PlayStation 5, then you can kind of take that $500 and spec out a higher spec PC so you are able to run games at a higher fidelity, which is great. But why this is a big deal for the gaming industry is this opens up a whole new world of games being able to be played on the PC with a function that's only seen on the console, which means that a lot of these features are going to be integrated back and forth most likely, which is really awesome. And like I said, when the PC modding community gets their hands on these scripts and are able to apply these to games that do not have this support, perhaps they're not even PlayStation games, maybe they're Microsoft exclusives, but the modding community builds a script out for the DualSense 5 controller as, you know, PC. They have drivers for just about any controller, no matter what the console platform is. You plug it into your tower, it just works. So you're probably going to have a lot of games that weren't even meant to have DualSense 5 functionality popping up with adaptive triggers and haptic feedback, which I personally think is really awesome. I think everyone wins here. I don't think anybody is losing. I think Sony wants to get these titles in the hands of PC players because it says right here at the bottom of the article, this is an opportunity to expose these great games to a wider audience and recognize the economics of game development, which are not always straightforward. The cost of making games goes up with each cycle. So the new generation, the 9th gen of consoles, it's more expensive to produce these than on the 8th generation of consoles. As the caliber of IPs or intellectual properties has improved, also the ease of making it available to non-console owners has grown. So it's a fairly straightforward decision for us to make. And I'd have to agree with that. There really is no downside here. It's good for Sony because it gets these exclusives, which are from Sony first-party studios, onto PC. So people are like, damn, Sony makes some fine games. And then it makes Sony look good as a corporation that they're starting to play well with others and starting to share their features and functionalities, kind of like Microsoft has been doing, where they don't have console exclusives. There is no Xbox exclusives. There is Microsoft exclusives. All of their games get ported over to Windows 10 PCs. When I say ported over, generally day one, they drop on both platforms because it is the Game Pass ecosystem. Now, PlayStation is starting to break away from being like Apple, where they don't want to play well with others, and kind of starting to adapt things like crossplay and also features that are exclusive to their console being playable on PC. So overall, this is fantastic news. This is good for PC gamers. This is only one game currently, but it's going to be a whole slew of PlayStation exclusives, which I'm sure will have support for the DualSense. Not to mention, like I said, the PC modding community will step up and add it to games that weren't even meant to have it in the first place. It's going to do it, guys. If you enjoyed this video, liking it helps it to get seen by more people, which in turn helps me grow this little channel, which I do greatly, greatly appreciate. Subscribe for more content like this. I do a ton of news in the gaming community and industry, as well as tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.